Well, my next guest is a radio presenter who's been taken to task by the Theraputic Goods Administration. Now, they claim he's breached the media advertising code. But Leon Pittard says the complaint against him simply proves his point, that free speech in Australia is under attack. G'day, Leon.
G'day, Tim. G'day to your listeners.
Now, look, we'll get into the specifics of the complaint in a moment. I mean, it all revolves around an on-air discussion you had about this topical cream called Black Salve. But before we go there, what do you think? Is free speech a reality in Australia?
I think most people would think that we live in a liberal democracy where free speech is an assumed right. We do not have any specific law like the American First Amendment, which guarantees free speech. In Australia, we have more of an assumed right to free speech, which is virtually there unless it's tested by the law in some way. So most people think we live in a society where we have free speech, but I think we're under challenge at the moment from a few different angles.
Okay, explain those angles. How are we under challenge?
Well, if we look at the current government in Australia at the moment, and I'd just like to say I don't think this is a left-right issue, but just talking about the current situation in Australia at the moment, there's an increasing tendency to scrutinise media, and there is muted plans to develop government bodies to scrutinise what is really in the public interest. And when the government starts to dictate what is in the public interest, I think a liberal democracy has a lot of problems. Really, I think what is in the public interest is what free media wants to present, because they know what their people are talking about. And generally, media picks up on the mood of the people. And in a free media should be able to express the views of the population freely, within natural bounds, of course. And when we talk about free speech, we've got to understand that you and I know that as presenters, we do have a certain amount of self-censorship. In other words, there's things that I wouldn't say here that I might say to you in person. Mm-hmm. Because we're broadcasting in the public arena, there is a certain amount of natural censorship that responsible people use. But we see government bodies stepping in, and a most recent example was Piers Ackerman, a News Limited journalist, who was called before the Press Council only just a few weeks ago. Now, the context of Piers's story was that he wrote an article about climate change and basically said how all of these different countries are bailing out from the UN IPCC dictates. Basically, a lot of countries realise it's a fraud, and that's what he wrote about. Now, when he wrote about that, the Press Council received a complaint. And this is important to understand because this is a process in Australia. A complaint is received by a certain governmental body. And then that governmental body, the bureaucratic body, whatever it is, in this case the Press Council, looks at that complaint and must make a decision as to whether it is valid. Mm-hmm. If in their mind it is not valid, it should be rejected at that point. In Pierce's case, they actually hauled him before the council saying it was valid, and he had to actually plead his case. In the end, he was found not guilty. But in his words, he said that he believes that we are in Australia really in difficult situation at the moment where government is increasingly muting their desirability to scrutinise what comes into the public arena.
Now, Leon, some would argue in this day and age that we have more free speech than ever, in the sense that we can pick up the phone and talk publicly on a radio show like this. We can post responses to news articles instantaneously. If you read it on news.com.au, for example, bang, you can put your comment up there. I understand that some of those comments are censored before they're posted. And then there's the internet. I mean, the internet, Leon, we can blog, we can set up websites, we can post videos expressing our views. All you have to do is click on YouTube to see millions of people speaking freely about so many topics. Can we really be arguing here that free speech is under threat when it would seem, on the surface of it at least, that we've got more free speech at our disposal than ever?
Yeah, it would seem that, and I agree with you that most people would think that. However, if you start to test the boundaries of being critical of government policy, and I believe this gets to the heart of the issue, are we able to really criticise current government policy? Are we able to speak in opposition to it? Are we able to advocate opposition to it?
But you do it and I do it every week.
Yes, and I am on the receiving end of realising that our free speech is not really an inherited free speech.
Okay, yes, you do have reason to be a bit suspicious, I suppose. But listen, if we accept your view that free speech is under scrutiny, is under threat, is being challenged in Australia, who is setting to benefit from that? Who's at the helm of this campaign?
Basically, big government. Big government that does not like scrutiny. The recent Finkelstein inquiry that was set up by the Gillard government basically recommended that a media body be set up to scrutinise blog sites, to scrutinise all internet sites in Australia, to scrutinise basically every form of media, and that scrutiny would basically be that anything that was not in the public interest. Now, if that media body did exist, let's say someone didn't like you, they could all of a sudden be sending in complaints about what Tim said on Two-Way FM. That puts you in a situation where you have to then respond or become a part of that penalty process. And as Piers Ackerman said, really what this is flagging is penalty by process. In other words, you have to then go through all this process, which I myself am starting to experience, where of course, you know, you're concerned about whether you've done the wrong thing or not. You've got to answer to a media body and you have to actually plead your case to prove you are innocent. So this is actually the opposite of innocent until proven guilty.
Penalty by process. I like that expression. I like that expression. So let's get to the matter that you're embroiled in now. Your radio show is broadcast on the net. It's called Fair Dinkum Radio. It's got a good listenership and it's a very good show. Tell us about the interview that started all this controversy.
Back on the 5th of May, I interviewed a lady by the name of Meryl Dorey from the Australian Vaccination Network. On my radio show, we deal with a lot of hard-cutting issues and vaccination is one of them. During the interview, she was explaining to me how she had just won a Supreme Court case against the Healthcare Complaints Commission, and we were just in conversation about that topic. And during the conversation, she mentioned that a product called Black Salve had been banned and that she was had a DVD that she had within her business that she made available to customers, and that DVD was a DVD called One Answer to Cancer, and it featured this product Black Salve in there as one of the alternative answers to cancer. And within 3 weeks I received a message from the Complaints Resolution Panel, which is the gateway body to the Theraputic Goods Administration, saying that they had received a complaint and that I was advertising Black Salve.
Let's just cut to the chase of this now. So Theraputic Goods Administration, I mean, they were claiming that you were promoting this product, Black Salve, and that the conversation you had with your guest was advertising and that it was undisclosed commercial. Now, you dispute that though, don't you?
Absolutely. The ironic thing is, Tim, I didn't even know what Black Salve was. So here they're saying, oh, I'm advertising it, and obviously they are saying that I'm a vehicle for publishing this this product.
Okay, but let me just take you to task on it a bit because it's important. You have no commercial interests with Black Salve. Does your guest, or did your guest?
My guest didn't sell Black Salve, but she had a DVD that talked about Black Salve.
So she did have a vested interest though, didn't she?
She had a DVD, yes, with the product, but it had been taken off a shelf. She wasn't at that time actually marketing that. She was just talking about the product. But
did you disclose during the course of that conversation that, you know, she could profit from promoting Black Salve?
No, because she'd cease selling it. It wasn't even something, because the TGA had ordered her not to send her a notice to say that no, the DVDs would not be allowed to be made public. Okay. Right? So basically, in the conversation, it was a political conversation. So what was really happening was she was explaining an experience that happened to her personally.
An independent experience. Now, where is this matter heading now? I'm interested to know what can happen to you as a result of this complaint process.
We had to respond by the 16th to the alleged claims, which I did. Now, what happens now is that the Complaints Resolution Panel looks at the evidence before it. They made it very clear that they had already agreed that the complainants, the anonymous complainant, mind you, which is another factor in this, which we can go into if you like, but the anonymous complainant's accusation they agreed with. So they had basically said that I was guilty of advertising Black Salve and that Meryl was guilty of advertising Black Salve. Myself, by default, as a publisher, that I had published the advertisement.
And what could happen to you? What penalty could be imposed?
Whatever penalty they choose.
Are we talking financial penalty?
Could be financial penalty. They may ask me to take the material off my website. They may ask me to pay a fine. I don't know.
Are you worried about it?
No.
No?
No, not at all. You see, they didn't give me free speech. I'm born with it. And this is a very important principle for us to understand. You see, humanity is born with free speech. Governments don't give it to you. We should all be able to share the convictions of our conscience.
However, Leon, all media in Australia, as you know, as well as I do, is bound by a code of ethics, certain legal restraints. You referred to them earlier. I mean, for example, I can't tell lies about you on this show. I can't call you a murderer or a con man unless it's true, because that's defamation. And surely you can see the merits in rules like that.
As I stated, we all have our own boundaries of self-censorship where we're responsible for what we say. However, when the government starts to extend its arms into speech where it is an experience someone's telling about themselves. For instance, let's talk about heroin. Let's have a conversation about heroin. This is a banned product in Australia. This is an illegal product to use. Can I interview someone that tells me that it made them feel good? You see, this is where it is. This is where it is reaching into. But I would say this: in the case of heroin, we accept that we can talk about it without penalty, don't we? Why can't we talk about other banned substances without penalty? And this is the subject that, let's say marijuana, let's say comfrey that I grow in my garden, that's an illegal substance now, that my father used to use as a herbalist.
But to play devil's advocate, they're not saying that you couldn't talk about it. They're saying that you had to disclose if there was, you had to distinguish clearly between advertisement and commentary. That's the complaint, isn't it? And I know you deny that complaint, but it's not as simple as saying they're saying you can't talk about that subject. They're saying that it wasn't distinguishable as an advertisement, which they've obviously deemed that it was.
Yes, there were other allegations also, and those allegations were speaking detrimentally about a government department. So,
really?
Yes, meaning that that we had spoken about the Therapeutic Goods Administration without, in a denigrating way. In other words, speaking about their overuse of power in the bureaucracy.
So there shouldn't be anything illegal or against the rules about that?
No.
We can pass commentary on government, council, the Therapeutic Goods Administration if we see fit?
Yeah, the advertising angle, I believe, is just the tool. It's the wedge that opens the door for litigation.
What's your main message here, Leon? What are you trying to tell the everyday Australian to be aware of when it comes to free speech?
I guess democracy is only ours if we take it. Unless we are really advocating our privilege of free speech, unless we're really asking people to be aware of government encroaching upon private individuals' lives or free press, the freedom of the internet is really something that I think we need to preserve. I think it will come under threat within the future.
Oh, the Rudd government tried to shut it down in quite a significant way not long ago, didn't they?
Yeah, the internet filter is coming.
It was only the technology that foiled it in the end.
Yes, well, the NBN rollout will provide a good opportunity for an internet filter.
Absolutely.
Which I think is coming.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that we need to be really aware of these things. We need to speak about it. We need to alert, I guess, the public that love freedom that it could possibly be very much under threat. And if it's under threat for me, it's under threat for you.
Absolutely. Now, Leon, look, good luck with your cause. I hope you don't get into too much trouble. Thanks for sharing the details about your case tonight and your perspective on free speech. I'm interested to know what our listeners make of all of this. Do we have free speech here in Australia, or is it just an illusion? Is it under threat? Call us on 6585 3456. You're listening to the Times Talk program.